Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So in this video I'm going to show you how to make this dress. It's an A-line dress with two-step ruffle, but that's how you're going to add the ruffle to the end, and then it has this scallop sleeve. So and it also has the neckline that is a bishop collar neckline. So this is what I have here. You'll find that I have my fabric folded into two. The first one is folded into two. This is my front panel. You'll notice that it's a little wider, and then this is my back panel. This is it here. The second one is a little smaller. The one in front is a little wider by at least 2.5. This is for the bottom placket, right? But then the one at the back, the measurement here is just the widest part of your body. So for me, that is the hip divided by 4. So my hip is 48 divided by 4 is 12, plus extra like 2.5 is what I did here. So I have 2.5 inch extra, so I have 14.5 as the width of the back panel. But then the front one has extra 2.5 also, or 2.5 would be better, just so that you can fold it to make your bottom placket. So now that that is done, the length I want the dress to be is 38. That's above my knee, but what I have here is 34, because my ruffle is going to be 5 inches. What I have here is 34. My ruffle is going to be 5 inches. So if I minus 5 from this, I'm going to be left with 33. So 33 plus 1 inch is what gave me 44. That's this 33 plus 1 inch gave me 44. The 1 inch is just half an inch to join the shoulder, half an inch to join the bottom to the ruffle, right? Because I want the last layer of the ruffle to be 5 inches. The other extra ruffle is going to be attached on this here, on the body of the cloth, but the last layer of the ruffle is going to be added to the edge of the cloth. So now let's go ahead and insert our measurements. So starting from the end of this one here, that's the back panel, put your shoulder divided by 2. So my shoulder divided by 2 is 8. I mark it, come down 1 inch of shoulder slope, insert your armhole divided by 2, which will land me somewhere here. And then once that is done, I'm going to then mark it all the way to the top, and then I'm going to give it a curve like this. And once you do that, the next thing is going to be to mark your chest. That's your bust measurement divided by 4. Then you're going to go ahead and add extra like ease to it. So you could do 1 inch of ease, 1 inch of seam allowance, or you could do half an inch of ease and 1 inch of seam allowance, because if you look at the bust, you'll notice that it's a little fitted at the top and then widens towards the end. So let's say I decide to do half an inch of ease and 1 inch of seam allowance. Then I'm going to go back again, put my tape and mark my hip line. So my shoulder to my hip is at 28, somewhere here, right? And then I'm going to go ahead now and mark from my hip measurement divided by 4, which is here. And then I'm just going to do like extra, like I said, 2.5 inch of ease. And then from this point now, I'm just going to connect it all the way from the bust to the hip line. So I did extra 2 inches of ease, or you could do 2.5 depending on you. So I'm just going to connect from the bust now, and then connect it all the way to this point here, like this. So that's basically what I'm working with now. It's like an A-line, just like that. So now the next thing I'm going to do is go back up to the neck, mark just 3 inch, connect my shoulder slope, 1 inch of shoulder slope to this point. So once that is connected, the next thing is going to be to mark 1 inch of neck depth for the back, and then for the front I'm going to mark 3 inch of neck depth. So from the front it's going to be 3, somewhere here for the neckline. The back is going to be 1 inch. So now all I have to do is just cut. So cut the shoulder, cut the armhole, cut all the way down, and then cut out the front neckline. So guys, this is it here. I've gone ahead and marked cut off this here, and then 3 inch for the neckline in front. So the next step is that if you look at it, you find that her girdle is just a little bit below her hip. So I put my girdle here. So it's going to be the same length. Remember what I told you, my length is 38. 5 inches is going to be the ruffle length, right? So like I said, the first layer is going to be on top of the cloth, and then the second layer is going to be at the edge of the cloth. So what I did here is that I went and marked about 4 inches going up here. So 4 inches from the edge of the cloth, that's where I'm going to be attaching my ruffle. Or you could do 1.5 below your hip line. So this is my hip line. Shoulder to 28 is where my hip is. But then I did 1.5 below my hip. So I made sure to mark it on all sides of this here, because I'm going to be adding the ruffle on top of the cloth. So I want to be sure that my lines are straight. So this is what it looks like. So now the next thing is going to be to just take the dress, open it up like this, take the front panel, and then I'm going to just add my, join it shoulder to shoulder. So one side here on this shoulder, one side here on this other shoulder here, right? But the center part, you're going to fold it. So you're going to first tuck in 1/2 inch at the end, and then fold it by 1 inch again, and then sew it down. So that is going to form the button placket. You're going to do it on both sides or towards the center of this here. So you're going to first fold it 1/2 inch, and then fold it again with almost 1 inch, or you can do 0.7. So that way you will form the button placket for both sides. So once that is done, the next thing I'm going to do is going to be to cut my sleeve. So to cut the sleeve, by then you've also joined the shoulder here, join the shoulder here. So to cut the sleeve, this is what I'm going to use. So guys, this is the sleeve here. You'll notice the fabric is like this, folded into 2, and then folded into 4. The length I have here is 16. I want my sleeve length to be 16 inches. So about 15 or so is my sleeve length. So I added 1, so that's why it's 16. So the next thing is to cut the sleeve. So you're going to come down here, let's say 4 inches down, connect it all the way from this point to this point in a straight line. Find halfway through, give it a curve like this, and then a curve above it. So this is our basic sleeve, right? So normally the width you're going to put here is your armhole divided by 2. So let's say that is somewhere here, right? Let's say it's somewhere here on this line. So what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that the width you have here is about, let's say, 2 inches wider than what your armhole would be, right? Because you're going to angle it towards this direction. So it's going to form like a wider opening towards the end, you understand? So it's going to be a little narrow here, and then wider maybe by 2 inches here. So it will give you that angle effect, right? So once that is done, the next thing is going to be to get, so mark about, let's say, 2.5, depending on the kind of circle you're using. So let's say I mark 2.5 all the way to the end, right? 2.5 in between, and then I'm going to place this here and form a circle just like that. So you're going to, when you place it, you try to mark a circle. I think this is not going to work. I'm going to find something else that will give me the effect of like a circle, and then just like that you're going to place it in between, and then you're going to mark it in form of this. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but basically these lines that you're making here, this 2.5, you're going to try to form like a circle, half of a circle in between each one, just like that. You see? So you go in at least 1 inch in. So you go in at least 1 inch into the line, and then come up with a curve. Go in 1 inch into the line, and then come up like so. The one at the end here, I'm just going to stop halfway through. So I started 1/2 inch in here, gave it a curve, went in about 1 inch into this line, and then the next one did the same thing, just like that. And then towards this one, the one at the end, is going to be like half a circle, just like that. So now what I have to do is just to go ahead and just cut off the excess on this angle, but try to make this angle like a little deeper, right? Like this point here, go in a little bit more, because remember your sleeve you're going to still use 1/2 inch to cover this end here. So if it's not deep enough, it's not going to show this scallop here, right? This half circles on this end. So you have to try to make your hand go in a little bit deep, like the curve of the circle go in a little bit deep, so that even when you sew in the seam allowance, it will still form your curves. So let me go ahead and cut mine off. So guys, this is what it looks like at the moment, right? So you notice that I've cut it out, but it might not be perfect, but you can make yours look even better. So once this is done, you're going to also cut out a piece of the fabric that you're going to use for the colored part, and then fold it into two. Also, you notice that the fold is still on this end here, and my fold of my sleeve is on this end here, and then trace out exactly the same thing here, right? Because once you're done, before you even join the sleeve to the body of your clothes, you're going to have it this way, and then take this here, place it on top like this, and then run your stitch. You're going to keep sewing from one angle to the other, to the other, to the other, just like that, all the way to the end. And once you get to the end, you're going to flip it out and iron it. Do the same thing on the other one. So when you iron it, you can then use like a stay to hold it down, or you can just use your stitch to also run it on top of it towards the end. Do the same thing on the second sleeve. Once that is done, then you take each sleeve, join it to the shoulder and the other shoulder, close up the side of your cloth, and then you cut what you're going to use for your ruffle. So for me, this is my ruffle here. I've cut plenty of that. So like I said, the length of my ruffle to the end of my cloth is going to be 5 inches. To that 5 inches, or whatever length you decide to use, add 1.5 to it. 1 inch of hemming the end that will be facing the ground, and 1/2 inch to join the body. Just 1/2 inch to join these two ends together. Once that is done, we'll then come back and finish up the center part. So guys, you see what our dress is looking like. Like I said, just fold this end here. You see, I folded this other side too. You join the shoulder. Next thing is to put in your sleeve. I went and checked, I didn't have the glue, so immediately I turned mine over. I just used machine. I just sewed it. You will see my stitch here, so I just sewed it very close to the end here and just sewed it down. But because my fabric is very dark blue and black, you would see my seam running here, so I just use seam to just hold down this all the way, and then I close the armhole, sewed it all the way down, sew this all the way down. So you will see underneath here, you will see my cloth is still sewed on the inside. You see the seam, the side seam going all the way down. So once you finish sewing it to the end, the next thing is to add your ruffle. Remember, my ruffle is 5 inches of length. I added 1.5. The 1/2 inch is to hem the end. The 1 inch is to hem the end. The half is to finish up the end. So you will notice how I sewed this part here. You're just going to, before you start, leave about 1.5 at the end, so that when you're done, you use it to wrap the end around and just close it. So you see, I just flipped it over to cover this part here and closed up the seam all the way to the end. And then after that, I already marked where my second layer would start. So before I started the second layer, I hemmed the end of the cloth with 1 inch, just like how I hemmed the bottom. I hemmed the end here, and then started after the placket of my bottom placket. You see where my bottom placket stops? My seam started before, like here inside. That is where this ruffle starts. And then you see my ruffle, I sewed it upside down, so that when it flips over, using 1/2 inch on that line, I sewed it. As I was going, I just started pleating it all the way to the other side, right? So when I fold it down, you see it covers like this. So even if the wind blows, and the second layer is also the same, 6.5, 1/2 inch of folding the end, and then 1 inch of folding the end, 1/2 inch for this part, and it's like 4 inches between them. Or you could do 1.5 below your hip line. So that's basically it. So all I have to do is one side will overlap. You see this side also didn't get to the bottom placket, this side of the ruffle, it didn't get to the bottom placket down here. So that once I start to put my bottom, the only part that got to the placket is the last layer at the end of the dress. So I'm going to have a button here on all these parts here, button, and then my buttonhole will overlap. That way it won't affect the ruffle. You see, it won't affect the ruffle down here. So now we have to deal with the collar. So we have to decide first measure around your neck, because you don't want this to be tight. So measure around your neck and measure the opening you have here. Make sure that it's the same, so that this will not be tight on you. I think I'm going to chip away like half an inch on each side in front for me, because it's a little tight. So when I chip away half an inch, I'm going to get my band, so we'll put it in. So guys, this is what we're using here. It's about 4 inches width and just enough fabric to go around. So first thing is just to go ahead and fold it towards the right side, fold it facing each other into 2, and then I'm going to close up this end using half an inch, face it towards the front. So guys, this is what we're working with. So once you sew it down, flip it in, and then you will have a collar that looks like this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take one end of this like this, tucking about half an inch in here like this. So take it the way it is now, tucking half an inch on this side, tucking half an inch on the other side of the collar, and then fold it into 2. You can go ahead and iron it all the way down like that, and then take one side of this here, fix it in between here, half an inch in, and then sew it all the way around until you get to the other side, and then you fold it. So that will be the collar. So guys, this is it here. So you could see that the upper part is done. So put button on one side and your buttonhole on the other side, and that is basically it. So I just sewed close this part, because I don't like to have button at the lower part of my dress, because when you sit down it starts to gape a little. So I'm just going to later put button on top just for design, but if you look at it, you will see that it's sewed close, right? All the way up to somewhere here is where I stopped. So I'm just going to put button on top of it for design, and that's basically it here. So you see the sleeve, this is what it looks like. This is the first layer, this is the second layer, and that is it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Guys, please like, share, and subscribe. Bye.